All right, we are in action now, ready to rock betting you. Playoff edition. Yes, we already went through every single bowl game, and probably by now, half the things we said are already done because people hit the portal every minute of every day. But we can say with pretty good confidence the playoff teams, they're going to have their rosters intact. They're going to be ready to go. And we've got 4 great games. We're not only going to talk about that, we're going to look at some of the futures, talk about some of the hypotheticals, and just talk about the playoffs in general. I'm Ben Rasa. Matt Gajewski joins me. You guys know what we got going on here. It starts. Couple more days. Friday, Saturday, big time matchups, and then we'll see how this bracket unfolds. I'm sure you're aching and raring to see these games play out.
Yeah, it's weird. In my mind, I was thinking these games were going to be later
Same.
because historically these are around the new year. But now that we have to do 3 rounds, they're bumped up mid-December. I mean, this is before even the Christmas holidays. So it's weird. I like it. We're going to have more highly impactful games, and they get like their own Friday, Saturday slate here. So it's going to be all action packed throughout this. I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm not a fan of the format, as I know many people are. I actually think this first round is going to be better than the second, no matter who wins these games, because we have 2 lame ducks that were automatically in, the second round, but it is what it is. Maybe they adjust this moving forward. They absolutely should.
And what you're saying, it sounds like at least, is the buys. You should be guaranteed a spot, but maybe not guaranteed the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone that's happy about this unless you're a fan of Boise or Arizona. If you think those 2 teams are in the top 4, you're just wrong. I'm sorry.
Well,
It
yeah,
is what it
that's not.
is. It's not even arguable. Did they earn their way in? No. They won their conference. Arizona State would have been left out had they lost. Boise plays in the Mountain West, who is maybe the 7th best conference, 6th, you could maybe argue. I don't know. I don't think they're the best G5 conference, which is pretty wild to say. But it is what it is. This was the bed they made. Now they have to lay in it. It's awesome if you're the winner of Clemson, Texas, or SMU, Penn State. You're absolutely licking your chops because you're crazy things happen in college football. I don't want to say you're guaranteed a spot to move forward, but I mean, these teams are going to be double-digit favorites.
No doubt. No, I mean, there's something wrong with the format because the easiest illustration is that Oregon is somewhat punished.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Like to finish 1 and 2 in the country, you're almost penalized.
Yeah. Penn State has a much better road. I don't
Penn
think
State
anyone could argue. Yeah. The losers of those games.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they'll adjust it because I have not heard a single person that's happy about this.
No. And I like the conference thing. I think you should get in. You just shouldn't be protected. Make them play. Their reward for winning the conference is getting in. You don't need 2 rewards. That's just stupid. Now, here we go. Bring up the games. We're going to talk briefly about the games themselves, and then we'll get into some of the what ifs. We start, though, with a little Friday, not an appetizer. It's a big game, obviously. Indiana and Notre Dame. I'm very interested to see, the weather shouldn't be a factor. These are teams that should be able to deal with if it's cold. 51.5. I'm interested to really see Indiana's offense go against this Notre Dame front and see if there's any concerns and what Rourke can bring. And then on the other side, what Notre Dame can bring. Do you have a thought on the game?
I like Indiana. I haven't bet this yet. I probably should. I see them taking money. This is against the spread. Yeah, against the spread, not to win the game. I think Notre Dame is the better team overall. But a lot of people will poke holes in Indiana's schedule and not do the same thing to Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame has played the worst schedule this year, which is crazy to say. But Notre Dame, I mean, 2 of their big ranked wins are against service academies who just flat out should not be ranked teams. They had great years. They're just not top 25 teams no matter how you shake it out. And then they played, of course, Northern Illinois, lost that game. They played a ton of backup quarterbacks throughout the year. Like Wegman ended up being a backup quarterback for A&M, a game they won. Zach Pyron was the QB in the Georgia Tech game, so that win looks awesome, but you're playing in an inept signal caller. Florida State had their problems. Colin Drea was benched in the Virginia game, and then they even faced USC with a backup quarterback in a game they were outgained yards per play. Just a lot of noise on this really easy Notre Dame schedule. And I don't think we've really seen a team that can exploit the injuries they have. Their O-line has been banged up all season long. They lost maybe like 3 or 4 of their best defenders. Jordan Botello, one of their edge rushers, Benjamin Morrison at corner, I think their best corner at the beginning of the year. Both of them are out for the year. You haven't faced a single team that can exploit either of those things. Howard Cross has been out for multiple games at defensive tackle. I don't know if he's coming back. We'll see. The extra time off will certainly help. And Kingston Viamamu Asa, who's had to play because of injuries at the edge, one of their stud 4-star freshmen, he was in a boot. So I don't know if he's going to play either. Indiana's the healthier team. They basically just have one of their guards, Drew Evans, who tore his Achilles at the end of the year. But yeah, man, I mean, I've been impressed with Indiana against much better teams than what Notre Dame has faced. You can say what you want about the Ohio State game, but at least they played Michigan. At least they played Washington, Nebraska. Like, those might be the most difficult teams that would be on Notre Dame's schedule if they had played it. So I think Indiana is the side for me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's going to be, seems like a pretty competitive game. I think the total's about right. Maybe a lean to the under, which the value of those points, particularly with 7 and a hook. And you could chop it, of course. I have FanDuel up today. And we're going to talk about future rounds, but I just kind of want to ask you this with each game. Do you think more Notre Dame than Indiana? Do you think Notre Dame is live to make a deep run?
No, I don't.
I don't really either. All right. Here we go. My team, SMU, the Mustangs. They've got to go to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. 8.5-point spread right now. It seems like this is going to stay between 10 and 7 and just live in there. Plus 250 if you want to get wild, 53.5. What do you think SMU tries to do? You think Jennings can have success against, Penn State? We saw Oregon do it, but, SMU is not Oregon.
Yeah, this is the best defense SMU will have faced this year. Penn State doesn't really have any weaknesses on defense at all. They're basically top 35 in every single unit, and some of those are like top 10-ish units, especially that pass rush, which is something that might be causing SMU some problems. SMU's had a couple injuries, especially at tackle. I think everyone's going to play. It's mainly Savion Byrd's been in and out of games for them recently. But I think SMU is a good team. I think the over is my favorite play in the game from a betting perspective. SMU is going to try to pace up Penn State. We just saw Penn State show weakness against Oregon, and it's happened at times this year against the better offenses they've faced. So you could poke like a mini hole in their defense, but it's tough because then you could poke a hole in SMU's offense. Like, they haven't faced a defense like this. So what weighs more? It's a tough question in that regard. I think if you force me to pick a side, I would take the points with SMU, but I don't particularly like it. I'm very worried about the level of competition for these two teams. Playing in the ACC is just much different than playing in the Big Ten, even though Penn State didn't have necessarily the most difficult schedule in the Big Ten. But yeah, both these teams are fairly healthy, so you don't have a lot of injury stuff. Penn State did lose their backup quarterback, Pribula, to the portal, just a casualty of the calendar the decision makers have structured for us. Really sad that he's contributed too. Not just when Aller got hurt, but he's involved in various run packages for this team. Now he doesn't get the opportunity to finish out a season with his team because of the way it's structured. So it just sucks. SMU's mostly healthy. Bird's been really the only guy who's been in and out of the lineup for them recently. So I think overall, over in the game, if you just force me to pick straight up, if you're doing like brackets and stuff, it would be Penn State. I have some interest in SMU on the spread, but I probably won't take it.
Yeah, I think SMU is definitely live to make it a game. I agree with the over as well. They probably do pace up Penn State. One thing you've talked about all year with Penn State, how many games did they gear down late? Obviously, they're not going to be doing that. The first half of the season, their second halves were as vanilla as you could get.
I bet them multiple times. Not even as crazy favorites either.
No, like 20-point spreads.
I bet them against UCLA. I mean, I remember that UCLA game. I think they had 3 players over 50% of the snaps on their entire team that game. And that's just one example. You could find anecdotal examples all over the place if you want to look at the MAC games they played, West Virginia, etc. But yeah, and also with Penn State, is like, I think people underrate like Minnesota. Coming into the year, I know you and I were both high on Minnesota, had some win total stuff with them. And it kind of played out exactly like how we thought with Minnesota. We thought this is like a bowl team at the very worst, and they're probably going to knock off some teams that they shouldn't and play close with teams they shouldn't. And they did that to Penn State. Like the biggest concern I have with Penn State is their offensive line. It's a weakness for them. Their receiving core is not great, but they do have a good run game. Aller's been playing much better. I think just more reps with Kotelnicki at OC has been beneficial for them. And you have a cheat code in Warren, who's really, really hard to defend because of his size and athleticism at tight end. But SMU has a pretty good defense. They're 9th overall competition. You'll always be able to point to that. It's not great. So I do think Penn State moves the ball in this defense. They did against Oregon, who's a better defense. But I think SMU's offense is pretty dynamic as well. They lost the game against Clemson. It was deserved because of that strip sack, but more yards per play against a pretty good Clemson defense. This will be a step up, but I'm still encouraged that SMU was able to move the ball in that game.
Yeah, I don't think SMU is going to be overmatched by any stretch of the imagination. I do think listen, they're plus 250 for a reason. Penn State, and again, we're going to dig more into this after we go through the games. Penn State has a super draw, so I'm not like in love with the team, but they do seem poised for a deep run.
Whoever wins this game is winning the second round.
It does seem that way. That is, again, the bracket itself is a little messed up. All right, let's keep it moving. Don't worry, we're going to talk about some of the other fun things we got going on in just a sec. Clemson and Texas. This is the biggest spread, 11.5, 51.5 point total. These totals are all very similar. I guess, honestly, the simple question is, like, can Clemson move the ball at all against Texas?
Maybe. I think Texas's defense is awesome. It was awesome to begin the year, but it was kind of one of those things where you play an inept Michigan or at least a down Michigan, Louisiana Monroe, UTSA, Colorado State. It's not exactly the best start to your season with non-con, especially having your marquee game against a team that's down. And then they went right into Mississippi State as their 5th game, had a bye, played Oklahoma, who was full of quarterback problems at that point, and then they go to the Georgia game. So it's like we've had Texas as this elite defense for the entire season, but the whole time I was kind of just waiting on, all right, can we get more data points? Can we get the Georgia game? After Georgia, they played Vandy, so it didn't get much better. But as we've gotten to the latter half of the schedule, which is kind of where the meat was, it's still a very easy schedule by SEC standards. They've lived up to it almost every point of the way. And when they've allowed a lot of points, like that first loss to Georgia, honestly, it was more like Quinn Ewers turning the ball over in his own territory. Like the defense, I don't think was a big contributor to that. Carson Beck had a terrible game in that first game. I don't think Georgia played all that well offensively. They ended up allowing some runs to ETN in the second half, especially in the second matchup. But this Texas defense has stood up every time they face pretty good opponents. Clemson's offense has faltered majorly in games against competent defenses. They got railroaded by Georgia. This team should probably have like 4 or 5 losses on the schedule, which is crazy considering they made it here. But yeah, I'm not sure Klubnik and this offensive line is going to be able to stop the Texas front, especially the pass rush. The coverage unit is number 1 in the country. So although they are playing their freshman receivers, which are an upgrade on what they were doing earlier in the season, I still think this is a very difficult secondary to throw into. On the other side, as long as Quinn Ewers is not turning the ball over, which is a problem for him, this team is going to move the ball on Clemson's defense. Clemson has repeatedly been taken advantage of by middling teams in the ACC. We're talking Pitt, Louisville. I mean, if you're letting other teams like that move the ball on you, what is Texas going to do? I thought we might get this closer to a 10 because a lot of bets are coming in on Clemson, but it's remained pretty steadfast. I might like just alt this up to 14 to play it at a little bit better juice, something like that in this game. So I don't want to play anything on Clemson. I would prefer a Texas side, but this number is just weird.
Yeah, there's some odds that are kind of interesting. If you think it gets a little out of control, but it's funny. When it started, I kind of wanted to back Clemson, and I just can't do it. I just worry a lot about it. Does seem that you mentioned it, like Pitt, Louisville. These are teams that,
I mean, they should have lost in their last game. If Jennings did not have that strip sack, they would have lost to SMU.
Lost to South Carolina, crushed by Georgia.
That South Carolina game should have been worse. They were so fortunate that it didn't end up being worse.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson also, again, all sorts of things have to happen, and you control what you can control. But Clemson, Miami screwed this all up. None of this would even be a thing. Like Clemson didn't do anything. Yeah, they beat SMU, but they should have been boxed out. I wonder what the Miami spread would have been. It would have been interesting, but
it would have been awesome. South Carolina had 3 turnovers in Clemson territory, 2 of them right outside the red zone.
Yeah, this is I want to do something with Clemson, but I'm just not sure that I can do it.
I could be talked into an over.
51.5.
Pace is good. Both of them top 50. You have to get past the Texas defense. But honestly, like some of the plays that Ewers, Klubnik's been a lot better at this year, but he's not like, he has some blemishes with the turnover-worthy play stuff, but Ewers especially does. Like, the only reason Georgia was able to score 30 points in that first outing was Ewers giving them the ball. So with both these QBs, you have opportunities for short fields for the opposing offense. Both of them have awesome skill position players. And I've been saying this all year. It's like, Ewers, can you please just not throw the ball directly to the other team? Take the easy option. Let Bond and Golden and your elite pass catchers work with the ball in their hands. You don't need to be a hero in this current composition of the Texas offense. They have a great O-line. I think Banks is going to play at left tackle. Every receiver you have is either premier transfer, 4-star, 5-star. Just like, can you please not ruin the game yourself? I guess if there is one concern, they could not run the ball. And maybe that was Banks being hurt. So that definitely impacted their game against Georgia. But yeah, their run game did look bad. But fortunately, like I don't think Clemson's defense is anything close to Georgia's.
No, I would agree with that as well. And we'll see. Maybe Arch takes the reins, your boy. So, all right, one more game, and then we'll talk to some scenarios, see what else we can get on the ticket. I do want to mention, of course, you guys know this by now, but maybe if you're just joining us for the first time, you're checking out playoff previews and you stumbled upon this channel, we both have Discord packages where we're breaking things down, talking about personnel, news that breaks, live betting, all of that stuff. The links are below. Come have some fun with us in Odd Chopper. Again, you're looking for tails. You get right in there. Go to oddchopper.com. Worth checking out at the very least. Best game, I think it's pretty clear in my mind, of the 4, even though I feel very confident that Ohio State is going to look good here. I am hitching my wagons. Why am I doing this? I don't know. To Ryan Day. I think that he's going to figure this out before he is swiftly fired if they lose this game. 7.5. If it hits 7, I'm betting it. What do you make of this game?
I'm betting something under on Tennessee. Okay. Whether it's a team total under in the game, something on Tennessee is going under. This offense is a disaster. It's largely Iamaleava. He's a young player, so you can maybe ascribe this to like a quarterback taking his lumps. We've seen a lot of QBs improve throughout their careers, and he is basically the cream of the crop recruiting-wise. But the offensive line is not great for Tennessee. I think some of it is not his fault. This unit is 72nd in pass blocking, 82nd in run blocking. They've benched both of their tackles at various points this year. Some of that may be injury. I know both tackles have been banged up at times, but you're not working with a strong foundation. I think the receivers are fine. They do have some guys that were banged up, like Brew McCoy missed their last game. I think it was precautionary. It's been about a month, so he should be fine. Dante Thornton got hurt in the game too, so just some things to watch. They're already a little thinner because they've suffered the same fate that Penn State did. They have a lot of talented receivers. A lot of them need to enter the portal in order to secure NIL packages, potential starting spots at other schools. So depth receivers that do play for this team, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, both in the portal, Cam Seldon at running back in the portal. So you're a little thinner at your skill position players for Tennessee. Their starters should mostly be intact, but that's at least worth noting. And with all that said, Iamaleava's had a bad season. There's no way around it. He has 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions against bowl teams from the schedule. 4 of those touchdowns came against Vandy. 2 of them came against NC State. If you want to isolate SEC teams, it's not better. Iamaleava's been bad. Is that his fault? Is it the line's fault? I'm not going to point to any which way, but now you're facing the most difficult defense you faced all year. If you want to be generous, you can't go any worse than top 3. This Ohio State defense is awesome. It's the best unit on the whole team. It's kept him in games when we've seen Will Howard disappoint. Same problem as Quinn Ewers. Just like, please get the ball to Tate, Ibuka, Smith. Like, it's not that hard. Nothing crazy downfield if you're worried about the O-line, which they certainly should be. They've lost 3 guys to that unit now. Tennessee's best unit is their pass rush. So if you do see like an upset situation or something, Tennessee's best path is getting after the QB. But I still think you have so many answers to that. Will Howard getting the ball out very quickly to his pass catchers. You have 2 dynamic runners with the ball. There's just so many things this offense can do, even with the injuries and limitations they have. Tennessee's limitations, in my mind, are just so much more severe. We didn't even talk about the defense, but when they have faced signal callers that are competent, they've been hemorrhaging production over the top, which was kind of our concern coming into the year with Tennessee. They lost a ton of guys in their secondary. They had a season-ending injury at their slot corner before the season even started. So it's not surprising to see that finally kind of rear its head, especially considering like some of the QB play in the SEC has been awful this year. But yeah, I think Ohio State would be the side if he forced me to pick something against the spread or pick a winner. But I am more interested in Tennessee stuff under like team total because of their quarterback ineptitude.
Let's see what we can get for Tennessee points. We've got it's lined at 19.5. You can get, let's see, under 21.5 at minus 186. That's too rich. Under 17.5 at minus 102. Under 14.5 at plus 165.
Yeah, Tennessee's taking money, so I just see no reason to bet this right now. I'm going to take it up till kick.
Yeah. Under 39.5 at minus 7,000. That's one you just put, and then you just say I'm 1-0.
You want to be one of those fake Twitter bettors that
the world we live in, friends.
The crazy records. This is what you'll play.
Smart. You either win or you lose. Remember that. It's 50-50. No. All right. Now, a couple of fun things. I'm just going to ask you some weird stuff here. You can bet. This could be something that you might be interested in. Lowest scoring team of round 1. Would Tennessee. You potentially look to Tennessee for that?
Yeah.
Okay. You're getting almost 3-1.
That's pretty nice.
Not bad. I mean, of the teams, realistically, I feel, there's always outliers, but to me, it's a 2-horse race between Clemson and Tennessee.
I agree. And I think I prefer Clemson's chances.
Okay. You're getting just north of 3-1 there. We got, what else we got? We got highest.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, have you seen these look aheads?
No, I want to look at those. Let's look at those right now.
I didn't mean to derail you. I apologize.
No, not at all. I'm just bouncing around here because there's all sorts of, like I said, there is all sorts of like this type of stuff on these sites. I actually go to DraftKings right now and see what they have because we did get some look aheads, to Boise and these other teams, depending on it. Let me ask you this, because we're going to talk about them right now. Is that something that you look to entertain? Like, will you bet a future matchup that may never happen?
In this situation, yeah. I haven't put a lot of time into them yet.
Okay.
Which is probably a mistake heading into this game because I do think there's some pretty interesting look aheads just glancing at it right now. But we'll talk through it, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk. So we got, you can take it anywhere you want. We got Penn State and Boise. I see 11.5 out there.
Isn't that crazy? That would be the widest spread in the first round. That's the second round. Oh my gosh, this Texas Arizona State. Anyway, sorry.
Texas Arizona State is at 12.5. You know what I mean? This game is not going to happen. But you know what I don't understand? Clemson, Arizona State is 4.5. If Clemson gets through Texas, I feel like that should be north of 7.
Yes, but I agree with you. That is actually one that's probably worth taking, even though it's never
going to happen. It's just
you're just going to get your money back.
Yeah.
But as a non-graded
Clemson at 4.5, that line will be. That will.
I'm going to run this on the back end right now. I'm very curious, but yeah, I think you're right.
I don't get that. And then you got Ohio State and Oregon is almost a pick 'em, 1.5. Tennessee and Oregon's about where I have it, 5.5. Notre Dame and Georgia is about a pick 'em, and Indiana and Georgia is about a touchdown.
Any ones that stand out to you? Who do you think is more interesting in SMU in the Penn State matchup?
Yeah, so I was looking at that. SMU at 6.5 would be nice, but we're not going to get it. 11.5 is so many points, but I mean, looking ahead, thinking about it, no one, you've mentioned this several times, and it was early in the season. Genty, I love that guy. He's amazing. But the Oregon game is being overrated as a data point. Do you think that he will have wild success against Penn State?
Penn State, no. Penn State is extremely well coached. Their D-line is pretty good, I think. I think you could maybe argue that's the best unit on their team. I don't know if I would want to make that argument, but
I don't know how Boise's really going to move the ball against Penn State.
I mean, we've seen other teams do this, just shut down Genty. But it hasn't really mattered because like some of those teams can't score and stuff on their own. I think Boise's defense is severely overrated playing in the Mountain West. That conference is so bad, so bad. You basically have Boise. You have a pretty good team in UNLV who should have beat Boise in one of the games, severely outgained him yards per play. Then you have maybe two middling teams like Colorado State, and there's a big jump between Colorado State and the UNLV tier. And then who else is there? Like every other team is absolutely, utterly horrifying. Horrifying. Yeah, San Diego State is like the fourth or fifth best team in that conference, and they're horrible.
No, I mean, it was an awful year for the conference because Wyoming is usually decent. They were a bowl team in the last couple of years. Air Force is usually one of the best teams. They're in a full rebuild. Who else is there? San Jose State. They were fine.
They were lucky to be as good as they were. They fell apart at the end of the year.
Who else is there? Fresno State. They're horrible. Up there.
Their coach resigned like 3 weeks before the season. Their quarterback was horrible.
Yeah, I can't even think of who else is left. That's about it. Nevada. Nevada's awful.
Utah State, Spencer Petras, quarterback them.
Awful. Yeah, Utah State's really. It was just bad. Hawaii made strides, but
you had one good team outside of Boise, UNLV. Everyone else was utterly atrocious. I mean, I don't know how you weight anything Boise State did. I agree with you that the Oregon data point's getting worse. If you go into everything that happened in that game, it should not have been as close as it was.
It was early in the season, too. It's just not.
I'm entertaining these lines right now. I thought it would be a little closer between Penn State and Boise. Like 11.5 is a lot of points, and Boise is taking money on this look ahead. So maybe you don't need to consider it that much right now. You could probably get a better number even coming up to game time. But this SMU 6.5 is somewhat interesting to me.
Yep.
I'm looking to sell Boise in some way or another. What do you think on the totals of these two games?
I don't have totals. Do you have totals, or are you just saying what do you think they'll be?
I have totals. The Boise Penn State 54.5, Boise SMU 59.5.
Honestly, I have more interest in Boise SMU on both fronts. The total too. I think that total will get. I think SMU will move the ball.
I think they will too. Boise has had some pretty concerning offensive output recently, like 21 on UNLV. Oregon State sucks, but they did score 34. They only scored 17 on Wyoming. They play slow. They're like 98th in pace. So these ones probably aren't the best look aheads for me. But honestly, I think some of this will come down to how Penn State and SMU play in this game. If it's like a greasy, grinded out game, I could see Boise taking money. They're already taking money in some of these spots. And I do want to fade them. So it's probably just best to wait on the Boise matchups.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to bet Clemson, Arizona State.
I'm betting it right now.
I'm betting that before. You're going to get.
Do we wait? Do you think there's any chance it moves?
Not really. I just know that if Clemson beats Texas, 4.5 is long gone. Long gone. It's just not happening. Barring like Klubnik sacrificing himself on the last play for the win, which would be unfortunate. But if that doesn't happen,
that's the only risk you run in these look aheads. Like a lot of people do look aheads in the preseason and stuff. I prefer not to do them because of injuries. But if you're looking one game ahead in a spot like this, I don't think it's terrible.
I don't think the spread is wrong. I just book showing a lot of love to Ohio State again. 1 point.
Ohio State. Where is this one? Sorry, I'm pulling it up.
No, they already, they obviously battled the first time, and Oregon, just all they do is win, and they have them almost as a dog.
I'm more interested in the Oregon-Tennessee look ahead, too. I think Ohio State is pretty significantly better than Tennessee. 4.5 look ahead on that?
That's another one I don't. I don't really understand.
Again, we're talking about unlikely look aheads because what
Yeah.
are the chances Tennessee wins or Clemson wins? But man, I think that is like if Tennessee won, obviously they would get more credit and it would be deserved. But man, like how much are we going to overrate like a Tennessee team playing Oregon? But I agree with you. That Ohio State game is interesting. And plus, Ohio State was healthier when they played Oregon. That was earlier in the year.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, I don't.
All right, I'll tell you this. I think my favorite one, Georgia -1 against Notre Dame. Like, how are we not slamming this?
So I have Georgia +1.5.
I guess the one wrinkle is Beck.
That's probably what they're. But well, what did you think of Stockton?
I don't think we saw enough of him, but I mean, he's a huge recruit.
Yeah, he's not a moron. He seems to know what he's doing. Like, no, I'm just saying, he came in and he didn't seem, that's the thing with these teams. Like, I'll go to, and it's different. It's the third string, but like, I bet Louisiana in their conference championship game, we knew Woodridge was out. Fields gets hurt. They bring in a guy who legitimately didn't seem like he knew how to play quarterback. He had no semblance. Like, when Georgia gets hurt, they just bring in a guy who's a super player who has no experience at worst. They don't have guys like, this kid is the heir apparent and he looked pretty good.
I mean, their third stringer was Arizona State starter last year. What's that guy's name? Shoot. I'll find it right. Remember the guy that was a Florida recruit? NIL thing happened, transferred to Arizona State. Jaden Rashada, my goodness.
Oh, Florida. I don't even remember him on Florida.
He never played on Florida. He committed there, and then
I forgot that guy existed.
And then some of the NIL stuff fell through, so he transferred to Arizona State. Arizona State was a mess last year in their first year with the new coach. Then he transfers to Georgia, seemingly like I think he did the same thing as whatever the UCLA quarterback.
Malachi Smith, Nelson, whatever.
No, not Malachi Nelson. He's on Oregon now. Forgetting all these like elite recruits that transferred to big programs, but I think the reason was to develop Dante Moore.
Oh, the UCLA quarterback.
Yeah, the UCLA transfer up to Oregon. I think both Rashada and Dante Moore just transferred to better programs to potentially learn from better staffs after playing their first year under atrocious staffs. But the point is, like, Rashada is your third string. And, like, they have Puglisi as their fourth string. He was an elite recruit in this previous class. Like, everyone on this roster is a 4 or a 5-star at QB. Georgia could legitimately go 4 deep at quarterback, and it would – man, I don't –
I mean, it'd be better than how many schools is that kid starting for? 50?
It would be infinitely better than any QB on Boise's roster. Georgia's fourth string.
That's what I mean. Like, so it's just so even with that, I mean, yeah, catching 1.5 points with Georgia is interesting. I'll give you that. I almost like that better than laying 6.5 against Indiana.
I agree. I think that Georgia game is against Notre Dame is really interesting.
What's the total? Do you have a total?
Yes. Let me pull it up.
It's got to be pretty methodical.
Georgia Notre Dame is 46. Georgia Indiana is 52.5.
Okay. Yeah, 46 sounds about right.
Ohio State, Oregon 52.5. Oregon, Tennessee 53.5. That's weird.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
I like an under in that, but the ones I like the most right now, Clemson -4.5 against Arizona State, the unlikely semifinal, but I think it's too low, like you. Man.
All right, what
I think
else?
The under in that Tennessee-Oregon game, 53.5. I think Oregon -4.5 against Tennessee. Again, another unlikely game. And Georgia, Notre Dame, the +1 on Georgia that you found, assuming hopefully we get just something on Beck.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be all right, let's see. Before we get out of here, and of course, again, I mentioned it already. If you have questions for us, we got answers at JazzRazBets, at Matt_Gajewski on Twitter. We're in our Discords, right? And OddsShopper. Those links are below. College football, it's going to be wild times, and we're going to be reacting to these games as well. Do you have any interest in betting like a finalist pairing or an outright, or is it more just like these look-ahead nuanced spots?
I think these nuanced spots are most interesting. Obviously, the easier path comes from Penn State and Texas. To just like pick the matchups I think are most likely, I think Texas being in the final is semi-likely just because their road is easier than anyone in the top of that bracket, the Tennessee, Ohio State, Oregon side. And like one of those teams has to cannibalize each other. Oregon, Texas in the semifinal, I think is much stronger than anything on the other side, which is tough the way this is structured. Immediately, I think you're kind of dealing with maybe a semifinal game that's more impressive than the actual final game. But Georgia is interesting to me. I think like if you could get good odds in like a Texas Georgia, that would make some sense.
6-1.
A Texas Penn State,
7-1. Texas Notre Dame 13-1.
That's not crazy either. The Beck stuff is weird. I don't know when he's coming back. If he's coming back. That like the rumors on that injury are so weird. People have compared it to like Purdy in the NFC Championship from, what was that, 1 or 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
It really comes down to how bad you think Stockton is or how much of a downgrade that is. I know Stockton is expected to at least start the next game.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Beck hasn't exactly been good.
I know. I mean, yeah, like I said, but he wasn't playing at the height of his powers. I'm not going to say it's Ewers to Arch because I think that you could argue that might be an upgrade. I think they can hold it together, though.
Okay. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to pull up the efficiency metrics for the conference championship because Stockton didn't play that much.
No, and then he got like triple concussed. But
that hit he took was unbelievable.
Super hit.
Stockton, 1 turnover-worthy play, no big-time throws. They kept his YPA at 4.5. That was pretty consistent with where Beck's was in that game. I mean, he was 12 of 16. It's not terrible. He had 1 pass batted. That's not good. He took a lot of sacks. That's not good. I don't know.
Can he move? Not really.
I don't think he's known for it.
You think you'd rather face Texas or Notre Dame's front?
I would rather face Notre Dame. They have a ton of injuries.
That's what I mean. Like, so like, you see the matchup and you're like, man, tough matchup. The guy just was thrown into the fire against Texas. At least he has 2-3 weeks to prep.
Yeah, I think the main thing moving your backup quarterback that affects you as a team like this, with Stockton being an elite recruit. So the arm talent, everything like that shouldn't be a huge downgrade on paper. But I think it's probably just like some of the awareness stuff of not playing. Feeling pressure in the pocket, like sacks taken. Like Beck wasn't taking a lot of sacks, but maybe just like going to Stockton, you have problems like that on the margins. But again, I'm not really a big fan of Notre Dame's pass rush, the way it's currently comprised. I'm going to think about this. This bet on the Georgia look-ahead stuff, I think, is going to come down to exactly how much you think Beck to Stockton is worth. I don't know the answer. I need to think on that more and dive into this very small sample we have of Stockton. But my first inclination is like Georgia's just a much more well-rounded team at this point. So quarterback aside, I think it still might be worth taking at a plus number.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be I'm going to have to look more into that. Let's see. What else do we have here? We got all sorts of shenanigans. Boise State to reach the semifinal. Conference championship versus at-larges. Interesting. Okay.
Texas and Oregon are both like plus 360, 350-ish to win the college football playoff. I think that's too, like, it should be longer. It's too short. I'm interested in the other side with Georgia, Notre Dame, Penn State, all 5-1 or better.
Ohio State
at 5-1 or better is good too. They're tricky because they have to play. Well, Texas has to play the extra game too.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting bet. So basically, it's Georgia. Oh, yeah, I mean, Georgia and Oregon, because like there's no way, obviously, Arizona State or Boise are winning this. You can just get rid of them.
People don't want to hear that, but it's true.
Yeah, no, they're done. Clemson's done. They're not winning it. So it's really you get what is that? You get 7 teams against 2. I mean, SMU's not going to win. Indiana's not going to win. But really, you've got a pretty good. I kind of like that. I might bet that.
Which one?
I might bet there's a bet that is you've got who's the winner going to be? Is it going to be an at-large team or a conference champion?
What's the number?
At-large is -180.
Wow.
I like that.
It makes sense. I mean, all the better teams are at larges outside of the top 2.
You're facing 2 teams. The rest of the conference champions have no equity.
Yes. That's a pretty good one.
I don't know. We just talked about, like, what if Georgia isn't at the height of their powers? Then it's
they
just
very well
Oregon.
might not be.
So it's just, does Oregon win it? And I would say no.
Their second round matchup is going to be brutal.
Brutal. Oregon's amazing, and I like them, but they have an awful road, and they're going to be in some serious, serious battles. No matter who. That's the problem with them. They have no easy path. I guess, there's degrees, but I think they're going to get Ohio State.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't think that's a good matchup you want for the second round.
No. All right.
I'm looking at some props.
Yeah.
I'm not finished with projections, but I think there's some that stand out right away. Anytime Kevin Jennings plays a good team, they put his prop at like 225. I'm seeing like 226 on the board right now. They're going to be throwing the ball in this game. And Jennings has been hyper efficient. He's eclipsed his prop, I think, in all but one game this year. I don't know why they keep adjusting him so low. Just flat out doesn't make any sense to me. So I like the Jennings over 226 passing yards if you can find it. Should be something in that range. What do you think on that one?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned crazy efficiency. You would assume game script in their favor as well. Like, obviously, you're not going to be giving up in this game. Now I know this is crazy, but he had 50 attempts against Clemson.
Yeah, they were down, but that's what you get when you're down with him.
I'm not saying he's going to have 50 attempts, but could he have 40 in a game like this if they're trailing? That's like, what, 5 and change yards per attempt? He should be able to eclipse that.
He's averaging 8 yards per attempt.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's really efficient.
He is. He's awesome. I like that one quite a bit. There's some others.
No Preston Stone. No, I saw Preston Stone's in the portal.
Yeah, that's a shame. I feel bad for him. He should have never went there.
All this is true.
He went there because he's a legacy, but he was behind Mordecai, who he wasn't going to beat out, sadly, because Mordecai wasn't like that great. Mordecai just had 1 million reps under his belt at that point. And then Jennings beating him out. I mean, that sucks, but it is what it is. How about Cade Klubnik over 208 passing? That seems low. And 25.5 rushing.
How many, can they protect him?
He runs a lot.
He does run a lot. He does.
He's much better at that this year. You have a lot of backdoor equity with that, too. Some of these receivers' props are pretty low.
What's Nico?
187.5. I was literally just going to bring that up. Unders on Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah.
I think I would rather play it on a pass catcher, though, because they run like 6 guys. Well, maybe they won't run 6 guys out there with Webb and them in the portal.
Squirrel White.
He doesn't even have a prop listed. That's how bad he's been. Isn't that crazy? No props listed on.
What's Samson?
Samson is.
You'd think they'd have to lean on him.
92.5.
That's a lot.
I might go under that.
That's a lot.
Excuse me. He's 110.5 rushing plus receiving. We'll obviously iron this out, but my favorite is Jennings. I'm definitely going to play the Jennings one over.
I'm going to short, I think, Samson if I make the drive. I don't know. Tennessee, I guess the way to attack Ohio State is on the ground, but still. Ugh.
I don't think they're going to be able to. Game script's probably not going to permit it. Tennessee's been winning a lot of games this year. That's how they got to this point. Maybe the path of least resistance is on the ground, but is it even really a path of least resistance? Like, they're very good at both pass defense and run defense.
Yeah,
and they've been banged up, especially, like a defensive tackle for a lot of the year. Like Tyleik Williams played in like half the games. He's back now.
Yeah, how much last couple of things before we bouncing out of here. And again, if you have questions, we have answers, just tweet us or hit us up in Discord. How big of a deal do you think the 2.5 weeks break is for? Like, do you think teams will look noticeably different personnel wise?
Not really. I think it helps a couple teams like Texas and Kelvin Banks, their left tackle. I think it's pretty big for them. Tyleik Williams has already returned for Ohio State, so I don't think that's a huge deal for that team. And otherwise, most of these teams are fairly healthy. I mean, you don't really get to the college football playoff without being fully healthy. And like the Beck things, it doesn't seem like he can return in time, so that's kind of not something that really works in their favor. I guess Oregon Marcus Harper has been limited at guard. That probably helps him having 2 weeks because he's been in and out trying to play through that injury. Tennessee had some injuries at their pass catchers, but they don't really have any standouts there to begin with. But Thornton probably plays after the time off. I actually don't know if it's going to affect like injury-wise because there's not that many in this first round. As far as game prep and stuff, I think it's always going to be a benefit to the guys we know are like elite play callers. So like Kotelnicki, I think, could have some stuff in his bag. Sark, of course, who runs like a weird timing-based offense to begin with. But yeah, I mean, these are all pretty damn good play callers too. Even like Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see
awesome, man. I can't wait.
It really is. It's gonna be fantastic. Much better than the garbage that Monday Night Football subjected us to. So I'm very, very excited to see it. And I think we'll circle back on these. I think, we should 100% when we get the new matchups revisit. Chat, let us know. We can do, there'll be shorter shows, but if Matt's game, I'm game to revisit the second round, talk about what we saw and where the look ahead lines are, and then go from there as the bracket shrinks.
I'll talk about Buffalo and Liberty if you want. I don't care. You don't have to entice me to come back.
You got to talk about, we may have to do a secret show on the battle of the Final Four up north, because I tell you what, Montana State and South Dakota State and North Dakota State and South Dakota are no joke. I don't know who's coming out of there. I guess Montana State, but man, those teams are serious business right now.
Those games are so fun. I'm definitely going to have my eyes on it. I, in good faith, can't lie to you guys and say I know what's going on.
I mean, I never know what's going on. I can just tell you that Montana State is unstoppable in that stadium. They kill everybody.
Have you ever been out to Montana? I think that'd be a fun place to like go to one of those games.
So I have not, but I've had friends go to Bozeman and they say it's just A, gorgeous, and B, like one of the coolest places to see a game.
All the graphics and views I get, even you just get from television at most of those stadiums out there, look beautiful.
It looks awesome.
Like Laramie looks beautiful. Sick. Colorado Springs for Air Force.
I've been there.
You've been to Colorado Springs, man? That's cool.
Yep. I've been there.
Have you been to Laramie?
No, that would be sick. I should have went when they had Josh Allen, which would have been dangerously.
Or Idaho, go see the Vandals.
To go see the Vandals.
I don't think they're any good though. Are they? They're bad, right?
No, they made the. They were just kicked out.
Okay.
They were in the quarters. Idaho State is like insanely bad. Idaho used to be FBS.
Yeah, I have a Vandal shirt. They used to be in the FBS.
Yeah, and then they
dropped down.
Get the hell. But now Sacramento State's coming up with maybe Michael.
Yeah, don't they have the $50 million NIL and getting Mike Vick?
That's what they say. They used to be good, and now they're.
Oh, did you see Schefter body Doug Gottlieb?
I saw that. Yeah.
Doug Gottlieb, near and dear to my heart, against my wishes in the Horizon Basketball Conference, torpedoing one of my favorite teams from last year. I went to the Milwaukee game on Sunday. It was awesome. They look great.
Against Akron?
Yeah.
I bet that game, thanks to you. So Discord, you can thank him for that because I put that in Discord. At one point, they beat the living hell out of them. They looked awesome.
They scored 100 points in a college game.
Yeah, they're good. St. Thomas, my other secret team, is good. They just beat up on an actual made-up school last night named Crown. So good for them. But yeah, college basketball will be here soon enough. FCS will be here. FBS, we got you covered. I'm betting you no matter what it is. We will talk about it, friends. Appreciate you tuning in. Again, one last call. Links are below. They're for you guys. So if you're saying, you know what, I need some help during bowl season, I want some more information, we got you covered. On that, just enjoy these games. It's the first iteration of it. It's going to be great. Come back next week as we recap all the drama that played out.